guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to talk about another unsolved case. Biff, what are you doing? Why did you come running like I was gonna give you a snack? I'm so sorry to disappoint you. Apologies, my dog's gonna be trotting around because she's on one today. Since you guys really liked the last unsolved case I covered, which was actually the first one I formally covered, I figured we could do another one. Again, the script was written by my husband. This is actually one of the cases that fascinates him the most. Biff just wants to say hi. Biff, come here. The Doge says hello. Yes. Oh, now you're shy. So today we're going to be talking about the Delphi case. Before we get into that though, I did want to thank today's sponsor, which is Hunt a Killer. As we're spending so much time inside, days can get boring and you might end up spending too much time on social media. Hunt a Killer is a game in which you decode ciphers, examine clues, and solve puzzles in order to solve a murder. The best part is that it's not only a game, it actually creates an ongoing narrative in which you learn backstories of each suspect and their relationship with the victim. Additionally, part of the proceeds for each box goes to the Cold Case Foundation, an organization that is dedicated to helping with real-life cold cases. One of the aspects I really like about Hunt a Killer, which I mention pretty much every time because it's such a big deal to me, is how interactive and hands-on it is, as opposed to just having, instructions or a piece of paper you need to read off of. You have evidence and you have files. It feels very interactive and it keeps your attention focused on the game as opposed to others where you might just stop paying attention or get bored. And it's also a great thing to do on date night because where can we really go? Right now, just for my viewers, you can go to huntakiller.com/readytoglare and use code readytoglare for 20% off your first box. Remember to use code readytoglare to get 20% off and show support for the channel. Thank you to Hunt a Killer for sponsoring this video. So let's get right into it. We often hear about the charm of small towns. Tight-knit communities, quiet, peaceful, and undisturbed by the fast pace of the outside world. For those living in those small towns, it is often said that nothing bad ever happens there, and outsiders looking in would be none the wiser. Unfortunately, evil lurks in even the most unsuspecting of places, whether it is just passing through or quietly residing there, hiding in plain sight. Such may be the case of the city of Delphi of Carroll County, Indiana, whose population is estimated to only have 2,915 residents. In such a small community, no one could have ever predicted the horrific murder of two young girls. This is the tragedy of the unsolved murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German, otherwise known as the Delphi murders, and how it continues to plague the communities in the area. Before getting into the story, I would like to credit the folks who contribute at the r/Delphi Murders and r/Delphi Murders timeline subreddits for the amazing work and time they dedicate to keeping the story of these two little girls alive while law enforcement searches for their killer. A big shout out to moderator. I made an error with the moderator's name initially, so their handle is u/justwonderingif, and they'll be linked down below as well. As well as a local Delphi user, u/bitterbeatpoet, who has since passed away, for their due diligence maintaining an accurate and insightful timeline of the events both leading up to and after the murders, while also containing a comprehensive list of witnesses. The information regarding this story are a credit to those resources. I will link the subreddit down below. The year is 2017, on Monday, February the 13th. It was a day like many others in Delphi, Indiana, with one exception. School was not to be held on account of an unused snow day, prompting best friends Abigail Williams, age 13, and Liberty German, age 14, to have a sleepover that Sunday night at Liberty's house, where she lived with her primary caregiver grandparents Mike and Becky Patty, as to spend their day off school together the following day. The girls stayed up late watching movies with Liberty's older sister Kelsey German and her friends, while filming a number of videos of themselves at around 2:45 a.m. before going to bed. Their day off school started with a breakfast of banana pancakes and some chores, including painting a desk in Liberty's room. It was a rather pleasant day in the city of Delphi, and having the day off, with weather permitting, Abigail and Liberty did not want the day wasted spending it entirely indoors. Sometime around lunchtime, they asked permission from Becky Patty to go on a hike at the Monon High Bridge and Delphi Historic Trails. The Monon High Bridge is a well-known landmark in Delphi and very familiar to the girls and the community in the area, so it was not uncharacteristic for anyone to want to spend an outing there when considering the beautiful scenery around the bridge. It is, however, to be noted that the bridge at the time was degraded old train tracks with no guardrails sitting 63 feet above a creek. This made crossing the bridge somewhat dangerous for those who have never tread on it. At around 1:30 p.m. on that Monday, Abigail and Liberty were given permission to go to the Monon High Bridge after sister Kelsey German agreed to give them them a ride to the bridge, granted they could find a way home as she was to report to work at 4:30 p.m. En route, Kelsey receives a call from her boyfriend soon before dropping the girls off at the trails and notes the time being around 1:38 p.m. This is not confirmed as Liberty calls her father, Derek German, at around the same time to ask for a ride home. The timeline here gets a bit muddied because it is stated that Liberty didn't call Derek until they arrived at the trails at 1:38 p.m., but according to Derek via Facebook, Liberty called him when they were leaving the Patty house. Note that it is a mere 7-minute drive from the house to the entrance of the Delphi Historic Trails. Kelsey estimated she dropped the girls off around 1:38 p.m., while Derek estimates it was 1:45 p.m. The discrepancy in timeline, while it may seem inconsequential, just goes to show how tight the investigation is regarding the sequence of events that occurred on that fateful day. During the call, Liberty and her father Derek decided they were to be picked up at the trails from 3 p.m. to 3:30 p.m., and given the imprecise time, Derek would call Liberty when he was close to meet at the pickup point at the head of the trail. Between the time Abigail and Liberty were dropped off and 2:07 p.m., the girls posted a photo of Abigail walking the Monon High Bridge via Liberty German's Snapchat account. And for those who do not know, Snapchat is a multimedia messaging app in which pictures, videos, and/or messages are only available for an allotted amount of time before becoming inaccessible to the recipient's or friend list. It needs to be stressed that the picture from the source in which the picture was screenshotted or saved was opened at 2:07 p.m., but that may not have been when the picture was posted. It is assumed the picture was taken between 1:45 p.m. and 2:07 p.m. What happens between the opening of that photo and the events that followed would remain a mystery for some time for everyone but Abigail Williams, Liberty German, and their murderer. Many of the questions regarding the events occurring in the short window of time of the now notorious Snapchat photo to the time they were supposed to be picked up remain unanswered to this day. What we do know is that between 2:30 and 2:45 p.m., both girls, Abigail Williams and Liberty German, were senselessly murdered in cold blood. These are the events that followed. At 3:11 p.m., Derek German, ignorant to the fate of his daughter Liberty and her best friend Abigail, calls Liberty only to be met with her voicemail, leaving a message informing her he is close to the pickup point. Upon arriving to the pickup point and receiving no answer, he called once again with the addition of a text, this time informing her he has arrived. Still, no answer. Derek exited his vehicle and began searching the trail for the girls while making a couple more calls attempting to reach his daughter. One call at 3:24 p.m. and then the other at 3:32 p.m. to no avail. At this point, he calls his mother, Becky Patty, to see if the girls had already returned home. As we know, this was not the case, and Becky Patty was told her granddaughter is not answering her phone. Family and friends, including Kelsey and the family of Abigail, are notified that the girls are missing, prompting a few of them to go to the trails to find the girls. They frantically search for the girls up until 5 p.m., to which Mike Patty notes that Liberty's phone is now going straight to voicemail. Not long after, at 5:20 p.m., Mike Patty reports the girls missing to law enforcement. The worst was not yet assumed at this point. While some speculated that perhaps they may have gotten lost, run away, or were just at another friend's house, still the worry was mounting for the families of Abigail and Liberty. Some family members went home to see if the girls might show up to one of their houses, while Kelsey went to work her shift an hour late as law enforcement was now notified and in charge. They prepared to conduct a more thorough search for the girls at 6 p.m. The search effort involved law enforcement and volunteers including Carroll County Sheriff's Department, Delphi Police Department, the Delphi Fire Department, and the Department of Natural Resources, while the family and friends started a Facebook campaign regarding the missing teenage girls seeking information. A mere 20 minutes passed after the search began and the sun was set. The search effort was now being conducted in the dark. After finding nothing and fumbling about under the night sky, the commanding officer called off the search for the two missing girls between 7 and 8 p.m. The search would continue at first light. In hindsight, calling off the search for the girls was controversial as Sheriff Toby Lesenby figured the girls were likely with a friend, just teenagers being teenagers. Despite county and local officials discontinuing the search, volunteers did not stop until as late as 2:30 a.m. Still no sign of the girls. Continuing at first light on Tuesday, February 14th, local law enforcement continued to insist there was no reason to suspect foul play and that the worst thing that could have happened to the girls was exposure to the elements. How wrong they were. At around noon that day, a shout had been heard. It was a rather frenetic shout as one might expect discovering the bodies of murdered girls, Abigail Williams and Liberty German. The bodies were found several hundred feet from the north end of the Monon High Bridge at the base of a hill. There was no doubt now that law enforcement was investigating a double homicide. About a week after the discovery of the bodies, law enforcement held a press conference on Wednesday, February 22nd, 2017 at 10 a.m. to update the public and release details about the ongoing investigation. In the press conference, it was revealed that Liberty recorded video and audio of the suspect on her cell phone. The recording, which is released to the public, appears to capture a man's voice saying, "Down the hill."
Down the hill. Down the hill. Down the hill. Down the hill.
Authorities say that there is more footage from Liberty's phone, but that they would not be releasing it because the investigation was ongoing. Additionally, law enforcement released a sketch of the alleged murderer. The man captured by Liberty is referred to as Bridge Guy, or BG. This is the first sketch released during the press conference. It is important to note that this sketch is now considered to be secondary, according to Indiana State Police Superintendent Doug Carter. Since then, Indiana State Police and local law enforcement held the details of the case very close to the chest, refusing to release the cause of death of the girls, and there is even debate that they collected DNA at the crime scene. Law enforcement gave the public very little, stating the man they are looking for may be between the ages of 18 to 40, is between 5'6" to 5'10" tall, and weighs around 180 to 220 pounds. This is all the public had to go on for 2 years. That is until April 22nd, 2019, in which they held another dramatic and controversial press conference updating the sketch, as well as the visual and audio evidence of the case, while addressing the killer himself. I suggest you watch the press conference for yourself, as it caused wild speculation about the current strategy of the investigation and just how eager law enforcement seemed about wanting this case solved, and how they desperately needed the public's help in identifying Bridge Guy. In the new audio, a single word is added along with the original "down the hill," and the original snapshot of Bridge Guy was now a short video snippet of the very moment Liberty captured him on the Monon High Bridge walking towards them.
Guys. Down the hill. Guys. Down the hill. Guys. Down the hill.
While both press conferences gave no indication of what evidence, prominent theories, or main persons of interest law enforcement currently had to work with, it gave just enough to at least put some pieces together on what happened during the short window of time between the Snapchat photo and the murders of Abigail and Liberty. This is what we can presume based on the investigation and currently known facts. Shortly after the notorious Snapchat photo of Abigail via Liberty Snapchat that was opened at 2:07 p.m. at around 2:15 to 2:30 p.m., Abigail and Liberty were at the far southeast end of the Monon High Bridge when they noticed the now infamous Bridge Guy. Of course, people walking the bridge was not abnormal, however, something about this man set alarm bells ringing for the girls. Having the presence of mind, Liberty thought to capture video of their killer walking towards them. It is observed that Bridge Guy was approximately 65 feet from the girls when Liberty recorded the now infamous clip of their killer. As mentioned, the video recording also captured audio evidence of the killer's voice, which is said to have occurred at 2:30 p.m. It is theorized that Liberty left the video recording on while she placed the phone back into her pocket. According to the state police, in this report, the audio of the recording says the girls talked about, quote, "stuff girls talk about," end quote, while mentioning the man. The girls proceed to the north end of the bridge, which is where it ends, leading to a private property. It is assumed Bridge Guy knew they would have to cross him on their way back, leading some to believe he was waiting for the moment the girls were far along the bridge before making his approach, giving them no way to escape his control. Unfortunately, the girls' instincts about the man were correct, and his intentions were sinister. Not long after the man was captured, were the girls believed to be taken to where they would be killed. As stated, law enforcement will not release details about the crime scene itself, though sometimes information gets out, and it was stated by Robert Ives, former Carroll County prosecutor, during the Down the Hill podcast, that there were 3 unique signatures. He said, "All I can say about the situation with Abby and Libby is that there was a lot more physical evidence than that at the crime scene, and it's probably not what you would imagine, or what people think that I'm talking about. It's probably not." And so, because of unique circumstances, which all unique circumstances of a crime are sort of a signature, you think, well, this unusual fact might lead to somebody, or that unusual fact may lead to somebody. I wish I could tell you, but again, that's up to the state police. There was nothing that seemed similarly identical that you think, well, this is modus operandi. In this context, the term modus operandi refers to when sometimes criminals commit a crime in such a way where it's so distinct that it acts as a sort of signature for them. And later saying, I would say there were 2 or 3 things, I'd say at least 3, regarding the number of signatures left at the scene. In this case, there are far too many unanswered questions. Were the girls intended targets? Or was the killer there for anyone who crossed the bridge that day? Is this the work of a serial killer? or one that may just be burgeoning. When considering the boldness of killing 2 young girls in broad daylight while his appearance and voice was captured, leaves us with the most frustrating question of all. How can this killer not be brought to justice? One thing is for certain, is that law enforcement needs help from the public to identify the killer of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. If you know who committed this crime, please contact one of the following resources. I will also leave resources in the description box, including Indiana State Police's official page regarding the Delphi murders. For more comprehensive timeline and discussion, please visit the subreddits previously mentioned. Abigail Williams and Liberty German showed bravery and a great sense of mind when they recorded the man that would end their lives. Please honor them by keeping this case alive. I don't really think this needs to be stated. I think it's rather obvious, but I will state it regardless. This case is heartbreaking, frustrating. There are just so many things that this case triggers in my own brain. A thing that I like about social media is that you'd think that if you have video or audio of someone, ideally, optimistically, stupidly, like to think that that means that we're going to catch the killer, that means someone's going to be brought to justice. But the reality is that that's simply not always the case, as we see here, which is one of the reasons it's frustrating and depressing. Both Abigail and Liberty showed great thinking on their feet, which is pretty rare when you're in a state of panic. Like, I know I've never been in that type of state of panic, but even with smaller things, it's like your brain shuts down. They made a very smart choice. I just hope that someone sees the audio and video and somehow knows this person, recognizes them, something, so this person is brought to justice. And the other alarming thought, which I try not to think about too much because it's, like I said, very alarming, is that this person is out there. This person could have committed more crimes. Like, I've said it time and time again, but it's very hard for me to believe that criminals are one-time criminals. Granted, they exist, but when you're murdering 2 people in cold blood, it's hard for me to believe that you'd be like, yeah, now we're done, you know? So I just wonder what other crime occurred that maybe a person hasn't been caught for that could very well be this same bridge guy man. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always. Let's get right into the fan art.